Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of Grant Guy Reviews Everything. And the everything that we're reviewing is every single Marvel movie to ever come out. Now, guys, I know what you're thinking. What does that even mean? I'm talking about the movies from the 80s, the movies from the 90s, the early 2000s, the MCU, the Fox movies, the Spider-Verse movies, every single one that you can think of. One by one, I will be reviewing all of them from theatrical releases only, pretty much. So, you know, I'm not going to do like the animated ones that were shown on like Disney XD. I'm not, I would be here for the rest of my life, you know, maybe at some point. But for the live action and just theatrical apartment in general, we have what I've written down right here: 78 different movies that I will be reviewing. This will indeed take me over a year. So guys, if you like the video, make sure to subscribe for more every single week, because next week we got Blade. But what do we have this week? Howard the Mother Effing Duck. Yeah, the 1986 George Lucas Howard the Duck. So my boy made Star Wars, and then afterwards he was like, oh, I like that duck fellow. I like that duck fellow. He's kind of like Jar Jar Binks. So now we're moving on to Howard the Duck for our first pick. So yeah, let's just get into it. So guys, a little bit of an explanation for how this is going to work. So it's sort of like the normal reviews where I watch it, obviously, and I'm going to give you my score, and then we're going to go into the story points, positive, negatives overall, and leave it at that. So without further ado, this is Howard the Duck. This is such a hard film to rate, because let me tell you guys, I have never had so much fun watching a movie. I haven't had this much fun watching a movie since Dragon Ball Evolution, the Super Mario Brothers movie from the 80s. There's just something about these movies that are made from a property where the person has no idea anything about the property aside from like two things, right? So I'm so impressed with how much I loved this movie, but for all the wrong reasons. Let me be very clear on that. I'm not going to be glazing this movie. This is very much this is a terrible movie. Probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but every minute they're hitting you with a banger. And by banger, I mean a scene that is so awkward, that is so cringe-inducing, that all I can do is sit back and go, holy cow, why did they do that? So let's just get into it. All right, here we're starting off with well, I guess my score. You know, I'm gonna say my score for the end. You guys can, let's just go through it. You know, I already told you, you know, it's not a good movie, but let's go through this. Should you watch it? Yes, it's free on YouTube, by the way, but I did buy a 4K copy because I'm trying to, you know, build up my collection. Anyways, on Duck World, a planet just like Earth, but full of ducks, Howard T. Duck relaxes at home watching TV. We see he gets like a postcard from what I presume to be his wife, which never comes up again, where she's like on vacation, but she's like, I miss when our bills touch. Very romantic, of course. And then Howard sits on a chair, and then he's looking at some play duck, haha. And we sort of get our first look at these human duck hybrids. We see him going through these commercials where it's showing like, oh, it's like a jock strap commercial, or for like jock itch, but it's like ducks, you know. This was the first moment where I'm like, okay, there's like an oddly sexual nature to this film. And then he pulls out the Play Duck magazine, and we see this duck with these realistic human legs. And I'm just thinking, like, were the people writing this and the people that were recording this, I just want to know what they were thinking. Were they thinking this is so funny, or that is so hot, oh my you know? Anyway, Howard sits on a chair and all of a sudden the chair starts shaking, and then he just starts getting blasted through his apartment complex. He goes from wall to wall to wall, blasted through different apartments, and yes, we get indeed. If you know anything about this movie, you know this one fact. Duck nipples. There's a duck woman taking a bubble bath, and she is completely exposed. You see the entirety of her breasts, including, again, her duck nipples. Like full-blown human breasts. The only difference is they're covered in feathers. That's it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who cares? Yeah, it's weird, but whatever, move on. This is a PG movie. I want you to keep that in mind. This is a PG movie. This movie is so sexual. It is insane. From play duck to actual duck areolas being shown with this chick taking a bath, dude. This is crazy. Now, here's the thing. At first, I was thinking, I think because this movie was made in 1986, you know, maybe the PG-13 rating wasn't around yet. Because, you know, that didn't come until a little later on. Well, I fact-checked myself, and that is not the case. The movie Red Dawn was the first ever PG-13 movie, and that came out in 1984. And that was PG-13. So they were the people who rate these movies were watching this. They're looking at the duck nipples and they were like, "That's pussy shit. That's pussy shit. Duck nipples? Yeah, show me some real nipples. Then maybe you'll get a PG-13." You know, and they get very close to showing human nipples as well. But yeah, PG, the same rating as, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a PG movie. How to Train Your Dragon? I have no idea. But anyway, guys, now that we're past that awesome part, there's at least one person. I'm just saying, I will move on, but I'm just saying there's at least one person who has done the deed to that screenshot of duck nipples. Anyway, he blasts through the apartment in his chair. He's going, whoa! And he shoots up through the atmosphere. And then he gets sucked down to an alternate version of Earth that isn't egg-shaped, called Cleveland, Ohio. He gets shot down to Cleveland, Ohio. I've been to Cleveland, Ohio. I actually live pretty close to Cleveland, Ohio. Gotta say, this version looks a lot more like Seattle. I don't know if anyone making this film has ever been to Cleveland, Ohio, but I don't think it looks like that. Ohio is very boring. It's a very boring state to look at. So yeah, I guess they gotta, you know, spruce it up a bit, but it's like, why Ohio? It's so weird. I mean, I'm glad they didn't go with the typical like Manhattan or New York or whatever, but anyway. He gets shot down into like an alleyway. He immediately sees this couple like making out, and his first instinct is to go under her skirt and try to like grope her ass. That is his first instinct for a PG movie about Howard the Duck. And then they're like, "Ew, oh, wow, what is that?" And then he's like, "Whoa, I wasn't gonna try that, I swear." And then he immediately swaps gears, and he sees our main secondary character. He meets Beverly Switzler, a rock singer with the band Cherry Bomb. Thugs start attacking her. Howard fights them off using quack foo, which kind of earns Beverly's trust. She invites him over. We have a couple like, "What do you mean you eat ducks?" sort of jokes. We have a, "What do you mean you have a duck purse?" What? What the hell? That's so weird. You know, there's a lot of stuff like that, which is kind of, you know, it's like, it wasn't really funny, but because the whole time during this scene, we finally get a real good look at Howard in general. And I have to say, there's a positive and a negative here. The positive is the suit for Howard is so impressive. The whole movie, I'm thinking, how did they fit a guy in there? Because yes, there is indeed a little person wearing Howard. Like it looks really good for the most part. I mean, just in terms of like the actual body itself, Now, apparently they did use like little dolls for, you know, like when he's flying through space. Yeah, that's a little doll. And when he's on a plane later in the movie, that's also like a little doll. And I guess they have like a puppet, like a marionette for some scenes. But in scenes like this one, when he's walking around the apartment, that's a guy in a suit. Like, that's insane. And I think, if I'm not, I could be wrong, I think it's the guy who also did the bodysuit for Chucky, which is kind of funny. But yeah, but also at the same time, it's also the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Because if you just look at his eyes, I know I've talked about areolas a bit too much in this review so far, but zooming in on his eyeballs, they're like areolas around his eye. For some reason, they didn't like, you know, give the duck man like feathers, like white eyes. They gave him like skin eyes, and then around it is feathers, and it looks disgusting. Look, I don't know the anatomy of ducks. Maybe that is the case, where it's like they all got like skin eyes. But I think in the design process, you just have to say to yourself, that's ugly, just put feathers around them. Anyways, so we have our first moment of more sexual awkwardness. So he gets on the bed and Beverly is just eating it up. She's looking at him. She kind of does like one of these where she's like fixing her hair. She's like, oh, oh, Howard. And she starts randomly looking through his wallet, finds an egg-shaped condom, which, yes, after this I did go on Google and find out what a duck's genitalia looks like. And no, it is not egg-shaped. It is the shape of a corkscrew. So I think that would have been a funnier joke if it was like this incredibly long condom, but it was just like shaped like a curly pool noodle, like woo, 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 woo. Anyway, Beverly introduces Howard to Phil Blumbert, this goofy scientist that looks like a 14-year-old. And basically, he starts freaking out about Howard. He's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So he starts kind of just looking into him. This is kind of a nothing burger scene. Actually, this whole like next 10 minutes is just nothing. So they go into this like museum for this random ass scientist that Beverly doesn't even really know. She's just like, oh, I gotta take him to a scientist that lives in this museum, and we did no research on him because it turns out he's just like an assistant that like cleans up puke in hallways. So it's like, okay, sure. And then he's just like, Howard, there's something crazy about you. Anyway, get out. And then they leave. And then Beverly's like, go find a job. And then Howard gets a job at this spa bathhouse. And immediately we see more tits. It is, again, I'm not going to keep rapping on about it being a PG movie. I just think it's insane. Because it's just immediately goes to the shot where Howard the Duck is like pushing a cart. And there's people making out. There's this chick that is completely naked aside from her panties. And the only thing covering her up is her arms barely covering her nipples. And she's just like runs across the room into another bathhouse with a dude going, oh, stop. And then the next scene, it's like Howard's boss, and his glasses are all fogged up, and he's like, you lied, Howard. And then the next scene, that boss goes into a bathhouse and he pulls out a bra out of this like one of the guests like shit in one of the bathhouses. So it's like covered, the whole pool is filled with poop. And it's like, what? And then he pulls a bra and he's like, I better make Howard clean this. And then Howard runs in, pushes the boss into the pool of poop. And then he says, I quit. And then that's it. There was no point to that scene. Like, he just goes from, I'm gonna get a job, and then 5 minutes later, I quit. Never comes up again. The most useless, should have been a deleted scene ever. But I guarantee they just left it in there because it's like, well, the little 11-year-olds that come to see this are gonna want to see some boobs, so put them in. It's hilarious. It's so funny. So yeah, then he leaves, and that's kind of the end of that. Immediately after, he goes back to Beverly's little nightclub. I think I forgot to mention, Beverly has a band called Cherry Bomb, no relation to, you know, the Cherry Bomb song, I guess. Yeah, then there's this whole scene where he finds the Cherry Bomb's manager, and he's like, just out loud, he's like, I'm gonna steal all their money. And then Howard's like, I don't really like that. And Howard the Duck aura farms. He's like, you don't want to know what's gonna happen, if you piss me off. And then they immediately pick up Howard. They just slide him across the table, grab him by the nuts, and just kind of give him a little, little raspberry, minus that last part. Then he gets up, takes like a little knife thing or whatever, stabs it through this guy's like hoop earring, and then immediately the guy just gives up. Instead of using his arms to like take it out and then punch Howard, he's just like, all right, I give up. Tell you what, you have the money and you can be the manager. Perfect. The whole, it's solved. The situation is solved. So he does that. And then, yeah, he's the manager. And then the whole band is like, oh my gosh, who's this cute boyfriend of yours, Beverly? And she's like, stop. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, this hurts so much. Because I'm pretty sure they're writing it to be like, oh, they're such a cute couple. Not once did I ever think that. It was insane. Like, I don't think that at all. Anyway, they're the manager, and then eventually she ends up connecting him with Dr. Walker Jennings, who they literally walk into Beverly's apartment while, yes, Howard the Duck and Beverly were about to commit the deed. Like, he's like, I don't want to. He's saying, I do not give consent to this. And she's like, well, if you have a headache, then I'm the Advil. And she starts pulling down his pants and lifting up her shirt. Wow. Luckily, so I don't have to bleach my eyes. Dr. Jennings, this doctor who is in this lab, shows up with the 14-year-old guy from the museum from before. And he's like, listen, Howard, we matched your feathers, and turns out that I had a laser and it shot into space and it pulled you here. And we can send you back to your home world. And Howard's like, bet, let's do it. They all go to the lab, but this crazy shit just happened. It's like an NPC conversation. They open the store, and all of a sudden this guy comes out and he's like bleeding everywhere. He's got like burn marks everywhere. He's like, please help me. We messed up the machine again. And then he just kind of like, I think, dies. And then he goes out there. Cops come. This is where the movie shifts in tones. Like, the first half, nothing but like sexual innuendos, duck nipples. It's insane. And then, but for the rest of this movie, it turns into like this like action Ghostbusters possession plot. It's so weird. I love it though. So essentially the cops come, and then just out of the blue, they're like, kill that duck. Kill him at all cost. What? Like, I can understand, like, if there was like a scientist behind it, and he's like, I want to, because I thought it was going to go the route of like, we need to dissect Howard, because they kind of bring that up earlier in the film with the 14-year-old looking scientist at the museum, where they're like, they're going to cut you open, Howard. That never really gets brought up again. It's just these cops that are like, I want to kill him. I want to kill him so bad, which, I mean, I can relate to it, but for the sake of the movie, it doesn't really make any sense. They're like, I want to kill him really bad. And Howard's ahead of his time. He's like, yo, police brutality. And I'm like, Howard's one of us. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so Jennings, he apparently at some point, we don't really see it, but he got shot by the laser like a second time or something. All of a sudden, Jennings is like, the scientist that explained all this stuff to him, he's like, there's something growing inside of me. There's something eating apart my inside. And I kid you not, he actually talks like that. I'm not making a voice or anything. I mean, I am, but that's how he talks. He's like, you don't understand, Howard. There's something inside of me. I gotta stop saying it's crazy. I'm getting repetitive. But anyway, they escape from the cops. They go to this diner, and then this is where the cop, or no, not the cop, the scientist Jennings slowly mutates, and he explains, I am an interdimensional demon, called like the Dark Demon, the Dark One, or something like that. And the second time the laser was fired, instead of going to bringing a duck down, it brought me down. Now I'm gonna fire. My plan is to fire the laser again, bring all the Dark Lords down, and yeah, I guess take over Earth. And it's crazy because I Googled this because he was name dropping like I'm the blank from such and such. I was Googling it, and again, no Marvel connection at all. Like, this villain is a one and done. They did not look at a single other comic, because I was thinking it was gonna be so funny if they're like, wait, who are you? And he's like, I'm Thanos. And it's like, holy, you know? But yeah, no, it's just this random thing that kind of made up for the movie. As far as I could tell, maybe I'm wrong. I would love to see these guys pop up again in some other like little comic or something. I think that'd be hilarious. Yeah, so at this point, they're in the cafe, and then Jennings is telling them this whole thing, and he's like, I'm the Dark Overlord. And to show them his power, he blows up a ketchup bottle. And my buddy pointed out something kind of crazy. The mustard bottle, it said mild mustard on it. I didn't realize that was a thing. Maybe that was just an 80s thing. Guys, do you have mild mustard? What does that even mean? Mild mustard? Is it just like watered down mustard? That's disgusting. Anyway, very randomly, the entire bar is like, I want to eat the duck. I want to eat the duck. So they take Howard and they literally tie him down. And then there's this like Japanese chef, and he's like, 1, 2, 3. And he's about to chop his head off. Even though he's talking, this whole restaurant's kind of funny because it's like, it's a country roadside bar, but it's like it's a mix of that and sushi. So there's this chick waitress that comes up, and she's wearing like a typical like maid kind of country girl outfit. But then she has like a Japanese like sumo headband on. It's kind of a vibe, actually. I kind of want to go to that restaurant. But yeah, and then the evil Jennings is like, save the duck. Very randomly. So he saves Howard, but then he immediately proceeds to like beat the shit out of him. And then he kidnaps Beverly. They steal a truck, and they're headed back to the lab. So very odd. So this whole upcoming sequence is the race back to the lab. Now, the issue with this is that they went from the lab to this restaurant, and it took like 5 minutes. The rest of this film, the race back to the lab, is like 20. It's so long. This is such a long race. It's insane. Again, I think that so many of these scenes, they were like, oh, these probably should be deleted scenes. Just put it in the movie. You know? But anyway, so Howard's kind of left alone. The cops show up at the restaurant. I guess they arrested the 14-year-old scientist guy. So Howard and him team up. They break out of the cop car. Then instead of stealing a cop car, they find a plane. They find a light aircraft kind of plane. I forget what it's called. It's like an ultralight aircraft. And they get it. It takes them until the morning, so hours, to get it started. And then they get it started, and then they're just like flying all the way there. Even though if they just took a car, it would have been like 5 minutes, but whatever. So then the cops immediately see them, which again, the whole point of the aircraft was, oh, the cops won't see us. They immediately see them. So then the cops are like shooting at the plane. And then the 14-year-old scientist guy, he's like, we've been shot. And then he like has to like get on top, practically on top of the plane. And all he has to do is connect this like hose that's just leaking oil. He plugs it back in. And then Howard's like dipping him in the ocean. He's like, ha. And this chase, I know I described that being really short. That chase was like 15 minutes of just constant like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It just keeps going. Like no purpose to it. And in the meantime, you know, again, it's a race. So we have Jennings and Beverly, they're in a truck. And then Jennings is he's mutating more. And he's like, real form is hideous. And then he has this tentacle like come out of his mouth, and he like plugs in to this this like cigarette lighter socket to like give him power. And then again, another pointless scene. He like comes to this like statewide stop, or you know when like cops like stop everyone on the highway because they're looking for a criminal. They do that, but then he just kind of like stops for some reason, but he hits a bunch of people, and then he kills the cop there, and then I guess just keeps going. They go to a power plant, and again, it's just useless. Like, why are we here? Like, the lab is like 5 minutes away, but he's like, we need to stop at the power plant for power. So he stops at this power plant, and I wish power plants work like this. You know what? I don't know if they work. Maybe they do. But he's on like a tour, and the guy with doing the tour, he's like, this is the room where all the power is in the power plant. I'm like, does that? I don't think that works like that. So he literally just like, he just blasts it open, and there's just this beautiful white room, and he just stands in it, and it's like all the power just gets sucked into him, and it's just like, I guess he has the power now. He's got it. He's got the power. You know, it's like, sure, I guess if that's how power plants work. Anyway, they get to the lab. The big race is finished. Jennings got there first. Oh no. Beverly is tied to a table. She's moaning like crazy. She's into this shit. And then he's like, I'm about to bring all the other overlords here. But then the 14-year-old scientist is like, whoa, look, the exact item we need to stop him. The quantum pixel fire 3000 cannon that is coincidentally strapped to this like golf cart. So Howard gets on this golf cart, and he's battling with Jennings. He blasts Jennings, and Jennings is like, guys, the evil's out of me, but we're not done. And yeah, the big evil bad guy is actually this big ass like claymation thing. And I will say, as much crap as I give this movie, as much crap as I give it, this claymation thing was kind of cool. Well, okay, not cool, but like for the absolute 0 out of 10 movie I've been watching, for this to be claymation and for it to be as detailed as it was, I was really impressed with it. Like, genuinely really impressed. Like, it looked kind of all right. You know, all the effects and stuff, like, you know, his eyes light up with like that 80s, you know, they just add white to the eyes. Yeah, that looks really bad. But the claymation, it looks kind of good. You know, not gonna lie. I was kind of into it. But then eventually he kind of just hits him with a second laser, which kills the beast. And then he takes out the cannon with him, which destroys Howard's only way home and kills the rest of the demons as they were like halfway to Earth. And then, yeah, that's kind of it. And then basically after that, Howard is officially Cherry Bomb's manager, and he does like a little rock solo number with Beverly at the end, and everyone that helped them out is there in the concert, and they're like, yo! And then there's this oddly catchy song where Beverly sings Howard the Duck, Howard the Duck, and it's just that line for like 5 minutes, and then that's it. That is Howard the Duck, baby. And guys, I loved this movie. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it was so fun watching it. Guys, if you want to get a bunch of the boys, a bunch of the girls together, watch Howard the Duck, go through that awkward sexual undertones of the first half, and just laugh at the obscenity of the second half. I think this is an amazing movie. On the bad movie scale, putting it alongside Dragon Ball Evolution, the Super Mario Brothers movie from the 80s, this thing is like an 8 out of 10. You know, it's like, it has that factor where it's funny to watch. There were a couple moments like during the aircraft fight where I was like, please end this. Please just go to the next scene. But other than that, it was just so funny to sit through. Now, if I'm gonna rate this as a movie on its own, if I went to the theaters back in the day thinking this is gonna be a big Marvel movie, because keep in mind, when this came out, this was right after the Superman Christopher Reeves movies. We had those. I think this came out the same year that Supergirl did, which I will say, funnily enough, I think Howard the Duck made more money than Supergirl, because Supergirl like bombed. Like no one saw that movie. So that's kind of funny. But if I had to review it in that term, boy, this is, I hate to say it, a 2 out of 10. Look, as much as I loved it, this is one of those movies where I'm sitting there afterwards and I'm like, George Lucas made this. And I'm just thinking, what was he thinking? What was anyone thinking? From the sexual undertones to the graphic stupidity of the plot. I forgot to mention, there's one part where when the cops are looking for Howard, they're like, he's armed and dangerous. So Howard, for some reason, he has a gun, and for some odd reason, he decides, I will now throw the gun in a barrel of like acid or oil or whatever. And then it's like, why'd you do that? It's like, yeah, they said he was armed. They're gonna kill him anyway. At least, why wouldn't you arm yourself? You know, it's filled with decisions like that. Jennings is such a bad villain. It's just a scientist that randomly turns into a demon. He's like, I will kill the world. And it's so bad. All the character performances, especially the scientist guy, the 14-year-old looking dude, he's probably like 30. Just such a terrible job. Beverly is just very stereotypical 80s girl acting, very flat and monotone. Everything around this film is so cringy. But again, let's go through the final positives and negatives, the ones that I didn't really go over. Again, the suit is incredible. I'm very impressed with it. Is it a good looking suit? No. But I mean, there were several moments where he was walking around and like the way that the beak moves, like while he's talking and the way he blinks, I want to know how they did it. It's really impressive. And that is where one of the films gets its points in terms of, you know, using those practical effects. It was really impressive. Like, again, like I said before, the claymation villain, it's really impressive. Does it look great? No. But just the fact that they did that they put the effort into doing that, I'm really impressed with it. I thought that was awesome. You know, okay, maybe I'm glazing a little too much. Maybe not. Maybe awesome isn't the right word. It's impressive. I'll leave it at that. And yeah, I mean, last positive that I have written down is it was very entertaining, but it's for all the wrong reasons. So now for my massive list of negatives, again, the uneven tone. The very first half is sexual. The last half is just this Ghostbusters possession movie. Very random. I kind of feel like they were writing the script, and then halfway through they were like, I don't know where to go with this. So they brought in like the guy who did Ghostbusters, and he's like, I don't freaking know. Here, demon possession. And yeah, honestly, one of the biggest issues is that the film feels so much longer than it really is. By the end of it, I was like, hot damn, that felt like 2.5 hours. But it's only like 1 hour and 50 minutes, which I think that is still too long. Again, I think if you cut out the random ass spa bathhouse thing that had nothing to do with the plot, and then just cut out like half of the flight segment, cut out half of all of these scenes, you could easily have like 1 hour and 20 minutes of still a bad film, but at the very least, you'd get your score a little higher. And yet not a single joke was funny. I was more so laughing at the movie. Like there's this one moment where while he's looking for a job, he goes to this like employment office, and there's this black woman that's like, she's like, I know exactly what you are. You don't want a job. And then she turns around, it zooms in on her ass, and then Howard literally goes, nom! Like he's about to take a bite out of her ass. And it's just like, I feel like in the theater, you're supposed to be like, whoa, 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 go Howard! But like, I'm sitting there like, why did he do that? And the final negative note, this is probably one of the ugliest movies I've ever seen. Not just from Howard's model itself, from his areola eyes, but the entire movie set. There is not a single shot, unless it's outside, that I was like, that looks good. It all looks bad. The lab scene, it's all messy. Whenever he's in the streets, it's just gross and dark and wet. And like, you know, maybe that's the point, but I feel like there's a way that you can do it, like how Batman does it, where it's like all ominous. I feel like you could have done that here, but instead it just goes for a gross, like, I need to go to my doctor to check for STDs after watching this movie. Just the whole movie itself is incredibly ugly. Like I said, guys, I don't know. I'm kind of going between a 2 or a 3 out of 10. You know what? Final score, I'm gonna give it, still a 2 out of 10. Guys, this, you have to watch it. You have to watch it to believe it. It's amazing and it's perfect and it's funny for the wrong reasons, but it's a hell of a movie to go through. Am I ever gonna watch it again? Absolutely not. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, let me know in the comments down below and subscribe for more every week. Next week, we're watching the first Blade movie, which came out, I think, 12 years later. So Howard the Duck was the only Marvel movie to come out in the 80s. And I think, if I remember correctly, the budget was like $30 million and only made 16. So I kind of see why. But yeah, it's pretty hilarious. But guys, again, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Get out!